Good morning, folks. So I promised this morning we were going to talk about some targets for the Indiana Fever to go after before or by the August 7th trade deadline. Now, aside from the fact that they absolutely have to have Caitlin Clark back on the floor in order to make a serious run, they need some help in the front court for Ailyah Boston. So all of this nonsense out there, and I don't care that they've won 4 in a row because they've won a lot of those against teams that are worse than they are, okay? Worse than they are. And let's face it, the big team that they put together in the offseason themselves, the Indiana Fever, has not worked out as planned, okay? And it started with DeWanna Bonner, who I maintain never really wanted to come to the Fever. I believe she wanted to be in Phoenix with her wife, Alyssa Thomas. And again, I say this in all seriousness. I worked for Starbucks. You couldn't even date at Starbucks because they were afraid of conflict. You could not date at Starbucks if you were in the same store. Okay? And I think there is a conflict because after the Fever beat the Mercury, Alyssa Thomas did not show up for the meeting with the media. And the team, both she and the team were fined for that. And that was a result of the fact that the Fever people, the Fever fans, rightfully so, booed her wife, DeWanna Bonner, when she came back into the building, as everyone expected, and she simply didn't want to answer those questions. She knew they were coming. So again, I say this. All employers have rules, except for the WNBA. So now, let's talk about all the chatter out there about who the Fever should target. And I'm going to put some articles in so you can see them. And I want you guys to tell me in the comments what you think of who they're suggesting. And if you have better suggestions, let us know. So this chatter started with an article from ESPN suggesting that the Fever go after Misha Hines-Allen, who was an all-WNBA forward, by giving up Damaris Duntis and a second-round pick in 2026. So let's look at this, okay? Right now, Hines-Allen's stats are 6.4 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, 2.7 assists, and 0.9 steals. She is a forward. Keep in mind that this person would play behind Ailyah Boston and Natasha Howard, okay? So that's where all the chatter came about trading. But since then, others have chimed in with other players that the Fever could go after. Okay, so let's go through those. I have no problem, by the way, with any of the players that they're mentioning except the last one. So we have shooting guard and small forward Tiffany Hayes. That is what we commonly call a swingman. Okay. She was originally in a 6th-man role with the Las Vegas Aces. Last year, in 2024, her point production fell to 9.4 per game, which was off of what her previous years had been. But however, she went to the Valkyries for 2025, where she has averaged 12.7 points per game. Okay. And again, she can also be a shooting guard, not just a forward, okay? Now, the reason that she could be available is they have Kate Martin and Caitlin Chen in the backcourt with the Valkyries. And the feeling is that with the right offer, they could give up Tiffany Hayes. So now we come into power forward and center, Ailyah Edwards. Okay. And this is where this makes sense, because Ailyah Boston is a great player in the paint. Okay. She's a power forward and center, as is Ailyah Edwards. Okay. She's a 3-time All-Star. But when she steps off the court, there's a definite void with Damaris Dantas coming in for her. Now, I ultimately think Michaela Timpson is going to be that backup to Ailyah Boston. And I think she's going to thrive in that role. But she is a rookie. And she's recently gotten more playing time, but she has had not enough playing time for her to be able to shoulder that load in a playoff situation. That'd be kind of an unfair thing to do to her. All right. So I think going after somebody to cover for when Ailyah Boston is out is the right move to make. I actually like the Ailyah Edwards move best of all, okay? She's right now averaging 6.4 points, 3.6 rebounds, 0.5 steals, and 0.3 blocks, but she's only playing 14.3 minutes a game. She used to play 21.8 minutes a game. So she could be an answer in the middle, okay? So now we move into number 3. And this is where I have my problems, okay? They're suggesting perhaps Brittany Griner, who was a number 1 pick. She's in her 12th WNBA season. She is now 35 years old, okay? They don't consider her 12th season particularly successful. They don't think she fits in with the Atlanta Dream very well. And that's where she is right now. She's averaging 10.6 points, 5.6 rebounds, 0.8 assists, and 1.1 blocks per game through the first 25 games of the season. Those were her numbers, okay? They say in this article that she wanted to form a tantalizing front court, but has instead become more of a nuisance. We don't need Brittany Griner on the Fever for a playoff run, okay? There are better choices in the pack than Griner. And again, I say Ailyah Edwards. For me, I like Ailyah Edwards as the pick. That would be my pick. If we were looking at just these 4 players, she would be my choice. Mostly because she is a power forward and a center, which is what we need to spell Ailyah Boston. And let me just read something to you so that everybody understands that what we're looking at here is somebody that Caitlin Clark can get the ball to score. We have seen Natasha Howard be successful, okay, in spurts. We have seen Sydney Colson contribute in spurts. We know that Kelsey Mitchell is a great shooter and a great guard, but she is not, absolutely not, who should be running the offense. I don't care what her family says. I don't care what the commenters on YouTube channels say. The team's offense should not be running through Kelsey Mitchell, period. Okay? Period. It is a waste of her talent to do that. She is a pure shooting guard. She can also bring it to the hoop when you get her the ball. She is a scoring machine. Caitlin Clark is also a scoring machine, but she doesn't have to be the highest scorer on the team every night. Because where Caitlin Clark is the most valuable is using her basketball IQ to run the floor, direct the players, and get them the ball. We know this. We know this. I don't want to hear about turnovers. Let me talk to you about turnovers. There is always something that every player has to work on. I don't care who they are, whether they're average players or elite players. Players who handle the ball as much as Caitlin Clark have higher turnover rates. And when players who handle the ball get the ball to forwards who drop the ball, muff the pass, those stats fall on the guard, not on the forward. Okay? There's no such category as missed catch. Okay? So, and unlike other players, Caitlin Clark can handle criticism, and we'll work on that. I have no doubt. Okay? I have absolutely no doubt. But just as Caitlin Clark will work on that, her team needs to finish off when she gets them the ball. If the ball is in their hands, something good should come of it. Okay? So let me read to you one line from this article that I will put in. Regardless of what happens moving forward, the Fever desperately need Clark back on the court. She might not yet be the league's MVP, but there are a few players in the league more valuable to a team than Clark is to Indiana. However, the Fever can help her make a push upon her return by making the right move at the 2025 WNBA trade deadline. Now, let me say this. For those people who are saying that the Fever doesn't need Caitlin Clark to win, let me say what I think. They have found a way to win without Caitlin Clark on the floor, just as the Celtics found a way to win without Larry Bird on the floor. But the Celtics were a better team with him on the floor, and so are the Fever with Caitlin Clark on the floor. Okay? End of story. End of story. We've seen it when she has been on the floor this season. Has her three-point shooting fallen off? It has. But I'm going to maintain to you that's not a sophomore slump. I'm going to maintain to you that that is a combination of Stephanie White's psychotic coaching moves, making her a small forward when she doesn't need to be a small forward, or she shouldn't be asked to fill that role, and the fact that she's not been able to string more than 5 games together at any one interval before being injured again. It is hard to get into a rhythm when you are a shooter like Caitlin Clark, if you aren't on the court and if you aren't developing a rhythm of a shooting rhythm. Period. For the misogynists that comment on YouTube channels that the Fever are better without Caitlin Clark, that's pure and utter bullshit. And everyone knows it, except for them. And there are plenty of misogynists out there insulting the WNBA. Now, being critical of the WNBA, I am too. But some of the comments these guys make are not necessarily about basketball. And it's disgusting, quite frankly. I do not think that this was an ideal team to put together. I don't. I think we have seen Natasha Howard be successful in spurts. I think we've seen Sydney Colson be successful in spurts. But it's hard for me to attribute that to their performance or to Coach Parseltongue's psychotic management style of needing to put people on the floor to counter who the other team puts on the floor constantly. I don't see that as a value. Okay? Last year, I admit, in the first half of the season, I was displeased with Christy Sides, as were many people. But after the All-Star break and after the Olympic break, Christy Sides got the memo, and she allowed young Caitlin Clark, rookie, to run the floor. And in the second half of the season, they put together an 18-11 record. And that is what got them into the playoffs. That is what got them into the playoffs. Katie Lou Samuelson, who is no longer with the team, feasted off Caitlin Clark's passing. Okay? Ailyah Boston came into her own in the second half of last season, playing with Caitlin Clark and developing the most potent pick and roll combination in the WNBA. And it continues to be that this year, except that Caitlin Clark's been injured most of the year. She's played 12 out of 25 games. Who knows what could have happened had she been able to play routinely this season. And if she could have played routinely without getting the tar beaten out of her every time she has the ball in her hand. And when Stephanie White says she doesn't know why that happens, she's not being truthful. She coached a team last year that targeted Caitlin Clark. She knows exactly why it's happening. It's happening because she's the premier point guard in the league. She's not the number 9 guard. She's the premier point guard in the league, period. And another thing I want to put to bed before I end this video is all of the people out there now saying that Paige Beckers is a better rookie than Caitlin Clark was. Well, you know what? Let me just say this. Caitlin Clark broke 62 rookie records. 62. She was a starter on the All-NBA, All-WNBA team as a rookie. She was, by midseason, they knew she was Rookie of the Year. She should never have been left off the Olympic team. That was an egregiously nasty thing to do so that Diana Taurasi could get her 6th gold ring before retiring, okay? Caitlin Clark deserved to be on the Olympic team, period. I don't care what Angel Reese says. That was a snub. Diana Taurasi contributed nearly nothing to that effort. And again, Caitlin Clark directing the floor in the second half of last year is what got the Indiana Fever into the playoffs for the first time in 7 years. Did they improve under Stephanie White over what they could have done under Christy Sides? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced, that we needed a complete rebuild to move ahead this season. I remain unconvinced. Christy Sides had 1 year left. Yes, we could have, and we should have made changes. Sophie Cunningham, definitely a keeper and a brilliant addition to this team. But Lexi Hull is riding the bench far too much. Far too much. Sydney Colson is in here on a 1-year contract. We'll see if they keep her at the end of the year. Great move signing Chloe Bibby. Okay, even Caitlin Clark was psyched about that. Psyched. That gives another target to Caitlin Clark as the playmaking guard. And she knows that. And she's not afraid to give up the ball so her teammates can score. She's an unselfish basketball player. That's the best kind. Players who will sacrifice for the team. She doesn't have to score the most points every night. But I maintain, if Caitlin Clark were on the floor with the right team around her, she could get a double-double every night. Every single night. And her teammates could feast off her passes. That's where I am. One of the other guys out there did a show about what players should be brought back and what players shouldn't be brought back for 2026. I'm not going there yet. We're going to see where Indiana goes before the August 7th deadline. But whatever happens, Caitlin Clark needs another target, and Ailyah Boston needs someone behind her so that when she steps off the court for a rest, they don't give up anything in the middle. And with Damaris Dantas, they give up too much. I like her too, but the Fever need more in the paint than Damaris. She spends a lot of time shooting from the outside. And don't get me wrong, she makes those shots when she plays with the Brazil team. She played with the Brazil national team, but it's harder for her in this league. And we know Ailyah Boston can shoot threes, but she doesn't spend her time doing that. She knows where she needs to be. Okay? And Damaris Dantas does not provide that toughness in the middle. So I think something needs to be done. And as I've said, I believe the heir to that throne is Michaela Timpson, but she's a rookie. And for the playoffs, that would be a lot to ask of her. So that's where I am this morning. And I'm going to try to come back later today. There are other things we need to talk about. And just getting back again to the conversation about Paige Bueckers being a better rookie than Caitlin Clark was, aside from the records that were broken. I'm not sure that had Paige Bueckers been treated to the physicality and the physical abuse that Caitlin Clark was treated to in her rookie year, if this had been happening to Paige Bueckers in this current rookie year, I'm not sure her stats would be as good as they are. I really just don't see it. It's kind of an unfair assessment, but even if it wasn't an unfair assessment, it simply isn't true. It does not stand up. It does not stack up. I give Paige Bueckers plenty of kudos, okay? She is a great basketball player. She's going to get better, and she is an above average basketball player. I will give her all of that. She was the #1 pick, and she probably will be the rookie of the year. I do think she will be. But let's remember something else. Caitlin Clark is at the infancy of her WNBA career as well. She's played how many games? There's 44 games in a season. She's played 12 this year. She's played what, 56, 56 games or whatever, 64 games, whatever. Caitlin Clark is also still learning and adjusting. And that has been stunted this year by her injuries. There's one thing I know. Caitlin Clark is a tireless worker and is dedicated to becoming the best possible basketball player she can be. And even Stephanie White said that at the beginning of the season. So I'll talk to you guys later. You have a great day, and I will see you soon.